In 2012, WWE launched their fourth wrestling brand. Mondays were Raw, Wednesdays belonged to the Wild and Young of NXT, the SmackDown was laid on a Friday, and on the weekends, WWE was hitting the younger wrestling fans with a Saturday morning slam. Going all the way back to the 60s and the 70s, professional wrestling had a home on a Saturday morning. Tea and toasts whilst taking in territory tussles, Rice Krispies as the best in Memphis would snap, crackle and pop one another. Limited availability for time slots, but a desire for the graps saw Saturday mornings become pretty much across the board where you could watch the wrestling. WWF and WWE have over the years shown cut down versions of their flagship programming on the weekend. In some cases, we get highlight shows with exclusive matches thrown in. I loved a Saturday morning spent watching WWF Metal. Remember her? Eating Nesquik cereal, watching Viscera versus the Blue Meanie. Hearing about what The Rock and Steve Austin did on Raw, trying to figure out a way of fudging your geography homework because geography was never your strong suit. Yeah, despite your best efforts, Miss Humphries. Anyway, in 2012, WWE decided that they could do more on a Saturday morn. Shows like Jacked, Metal, and Superstars certainly performed consistently, but WWE were keen to revamp the morning wrestling experience. In turn, WWE wanted to work with the CW, who had carried SmackDown in the States until 2008. They had a Saturday morning programming block called Vortex. Look at all those X's. They're cool. It was run by Saban, the company behind Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So WWE made a pitch to Saban and the CW, creating a weekly 30-minute bespoke WWE TV show was that pitch. And it wasn't just warmed up cold cuts from Raw and SmackDown, not just a selection of dark matches with the lights on. It would be a WWE show with high-profile matches conducted in a child-friendly way. It would also have profiles on WWE stars designed to educate new, malleable minds, and even have its own storylines away from Raw and SmackDown as well. CW, who knew their graps after hosting SmackDown in years gone by, were all in. They paid for 2 seasons, and soon after, WWE announced that on August the 24th, we would see the debut of Saturday Morning Slam on the Vortex programming block at 10 a.m. In getting this deal, WWE were getting back into the books with the CW. Whilst the goal was to create a show to get the kids on board and get them pestering parents for action figures, WWE were also keen to launch an additional 30-minute show on the network, one that would serve as a countdown for pay-per-views. Now, currently, the kickoffs were being hosted on YouTube. We're a few years off the WWE network at this point. The real money was getting this glorified infomercial onto network telly. So if WWE does well in the Saturday morning slot, then maybe, just maybe, quite possibly, other conversations could be had. Taped before SmackDown on a Tuesday with a lime green lit arena, the focus of WWE Saturday Morning Slam would be on simple, fun, family-friendly fracas with talent from across Raw and SmackDown, and sometimes maybe even NXT. Early drafts of the show included Hornswoggle playing the host, presumably welcoming fans to the show and setting up some matches. I say presumably because the concept of a host and Hornswoggle's dreams of hosting were canned in favour of something a little more familiar, which we'll get to in a bit. The commentary table consisted of Josh Matthews and a revolving door. Not literally, metaphorically. Wrestlers would join him and add colour to the proceedings. Some took this as an opportunity to show their range in a non-wrestling role. The Miz, Kofi Kingston and Cody Rhodes all had good showings, as did Booker T, who's still doing commentary today. Some just had fun with it, like Alicia Fox and Santino Marella. Some really couldn't be arsed. There's one episode in particular where Dolph Ziggler is on commentary and it sounds like he's doing his taxes at the same time. The backstage interviews were conducted randomly by Natalya. She was still an active competitor at the time, and she was juggling her role as a backstage interviewer on Saturdays with arguments with fellow Total Divas cast members and a blossoming on-screen relationship with the great Khali. Blessed. As well as a commentation station feel, the in-ring action hit different too. They were either straightforward good guy versus bad guy affairs or comedy silliness. sometimes both. One match that stands out saw Santino Marella and Heath Slater having an air-off in which they alternated playing imaginary musical instruments mid-match. There was one match that saw Curtis Axel become so discombobulated by an airplane spin, he pinned the ref, and his opponent Sheamus counted the cover. Banter! There was one I remember, it was Kofi Kingston and Justin Gabriel in like Who's the Best High Flyer. They spent the whole show building it up. It was amazing. The silliness was subterfuge though, as in order for the show to fit into the Saturday morning program block, it was given a rating of TVG, suitable for all ages, which made even the PG era Raw and SmackDown look like the height of the Attitude Era. So we didn't get punches to the head or anything strike-wise that was particularly ruthlessly aggressive. It was headlocks, takedowns, wrestling, and comedy. That was the order of the day. This is why matches were taped exclusively for Saturday Morning Slam, so they could adhere to this safer wrestling style. However, with any Mighty Matt mechanic, muscle memory meanders through sometimes, and on this occasion you'd see sudden hard cuts to the delighted youngsters in the crowd, lest we see Zack Ryder get walloped too harsh around the headband. Come on, Tom! I hear you cry through your Saturday morning shredded wheat. This just sounds like a TV show. This isn't a fourth brand of WWE. Well, in most optics, it actually was its own brand, thank you. Don't talk with your mouth full. There were storylines that played out exclusively on Saturday Morning Slam. Dolph Ziggler and Zack Ryder having a mini tete-a-tete on Slam while Ziggler was Mr. Money in the Bank. Natalya and Rosa Mendez's Total Diva shenanigans spilled over into tag team battles with the Shining Stars and the Great Khali and Hornswoggle. I know, check out my melody. The biggest angle was over the reveal of the Saturday Morning Slam general manager. And this is what truly breaks it away from Raw, SmackDown and NXT. It had its own kayfabe management structure. After weeks of deliberation and desperate superstars putting themselves forward for the gig, it was revealed that Mick Foley would assume the position. He would appear on at least one backstage segment per week where he would matchmake, fool around, comedy silliness, and even gave us, very briefly, Cobra versus Mr. Socko 2, twice in a lifetime. The arm behind the deadly Cobra, of course, was Santino Marella, and he was one of the real bright spots of Saturday Morning Slam. Spent most of the episodes behind the commentary table before they started subbing in superstars, but whenever he wrestled, he was just a deep comedy joy. In ring, the true MVP of the Weekend Warriors was Justin Gabriel. He competed on nearly a third of all episodes of Slam. 3MB, Jinder Mahal, Heath Slater, and Drew McIntyre are just behind Justin for time served as well. It was mainly on the losing end, but Jinder and Drew can actually say that they hold a pinfall victory over the Usos on Saturday Morning Slam. Now that is how you get Usi on a Saturday morning. Other regular faces to the weekend races included Long Island Ice Zack Ryder, Kofi Kingston, Dolph Ziggler, and his monstrous bodyguard Big E Langston. I think some of those should be friends. Brodus Clay and the Funkadactyls, the delectable Damien Sandow, and his good friend Cody Rhodes, back when he was a whoa rather than a whoa. You get it. The primetime players may have preached about millions of dollars, but they got millions of minutes worth of exposure to the younger end of the universe. They, along with the Shining Stars, Primo and Epico, and the Usos, who were doing their thing back when their tribal chief was trying on chest protectors, was pretty much the tag team division of Saturday Morning Slam. Slam wasn't just a mid-card cast wake-up call from WWE though, no, because you had top dogs appear on there like Randy Orton, Sheamus, the Dazzler Daniel Bryan, and Rey Mysterio. They worked for the weekend too. In fact, en route to his second showdown with The Rock, even John Cena popped by Saturday Morning Slam to go one-on-one with Heath Slater. No surprises who won. Around the wrestling ring, WWE would have Superstar Spotlights, which would give cliff notes on the history of one of the wrestlers they were about to watch. This was a great tactic to teach young minds WWE lore, explain what some of these brutes have been up to on Raw and or SmackDown. They'd explain concepts like the Royal Rumble and Money in the Bank in a very palatable way, constantly push how important victories on Saturday Morning Slam were to each competitor, helping them progress further in their WWE career, even without title contention in their midst. If you won on Slam, it was important. Trust me, they said so. In total, we got 38 episodes of Saturday Morning Slam. It had the highest viewership in the Vortex program block, with DC's animated series Justice League Unlimited as a lead-in. Slam would Superman punch over 1 million viewers each week. Despite the originality, the focus on family-friendly fights, and the ratings success, Saturday Morning Slam tapped out in May of 2013, less than a year into its first transmission. The channel had bought just 2 seasons, as we said earlier on, with an option to do more if they felt that it was right. Whilst the general vibe is that Vortex wanted to move in a different direction, it's been reported that the end of the show came with a falling out between Vince McMahon and Saban Entertainment, who owned the programming block. They wanted to have more creative input into the direction of the show, and Vince McMahon, very famously, doesn't always like to share his train set with other children, which makes telling this story all the more interesting, as in the year that we're talking about this, WWE has sold to Endeavor, and Vince McMahon is no longer, in any sense, the higher power. The final episode of Saturday Morning Slam was taped as part of SmackDown's broadcast from the O2 in London. After Randy Orton and Sheamus put away Darren Young and Titus O'Neil in the main event, Josh Matthews and guest commentator Alicia Fox signed off with a breezy cheerio from London, England. And that was it. Not a bang, nor a whimper. Just a cheerio. Cheerio. So that's Saturday Morning Slam, WWE's forgotten 4th brand. You may still argue the toss over whether it truly counts as a separate entity, in the way that Raw and SmackDown are opposing star clusters in WWE's endless night sky. But it had a functioning roster with their own ecosystem of stories and silliness. It had a wrestling style that gave us graps without the gore, and it had the greatest trope in wrestling history, a management structure featuring Mick Foley. Saturday Morning Slam served a different slice of WWE entertainment to a different section of the WWE universe. Whilst the thoughts of the PG era to many makes them vomit so hard that WWE cameras cut away to the shot of the live crowd, it was a real throwback to a simpler time as a wrestling fan, one that I genuinely wouldn't be shocked if WWE attempt to cash in on again in the years to come, 4 years to come. I mean, I for one would never grow tired of the tag team of professional wrestling and my first cup of tea in the morning. Be good, that. Stay safe. Love you, bye. It's a bit dry.